There's a lot happening in the world today. We've just witnessed on the 21st of April 2025 the passing of Pope Francis, and he's the symbol, the archetype of the religious institutions that pretty much govern the world. And I want to tie this story, this passing, with the resurrection of the divine feminine, symbolized by Mary Magdalene. As you know, she's been the archetype for repression, persecution. She's been smeared for 1400 years to be the prostitute in the biblical stories. And we know that's not true. And I'm going to tie this in also to the world grid. This is the EarthStar, and it was a geometry that I've received from the internet about 20 years ago, and it got damaged. And you can see that it's been repaired. So symbolically, the earth is in my hands. We're repairing the earth grid. So I want to tie in the story of Pope Francis's passing, Mary Magdalene, and the sacred geometry of this shape called the rhombic tricontohedron. So it's a bit of a rant. Stay with me for about 30 minutes. I just want to show you like what I do in my spare time. You know, if it's a rainy day, I'll spend all day just getting my scissors and glue and tape. And what I would be doing is it's a meditation. So I would be showing how I'm going to repair the inside of this. So first of all, I just want to announce before I show you the repair of the earth grid, something amazing happened in about 1400 years ago. Pope Gregory the Great, I don't know why he's called the Great, because he did something very nefarious. He decreed to the world that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. And there's nothing in the Bible that says that. That was about 591 AD. So 591 AD, we have the top religious bishop in the world declaring that Mary was a prostitute. And that's it. That's insane. And so that's been believed for 1400 years. And then now let's come to our lifetime. In 1969, another incredible thing happened. And something so special happened, and no one's talking about it. And what happened was the Pope at the time, he was Pope Paul VI. So Pope Paul VI in 1969 said, oops, we made a mistake. Mary Magdalene is not a prostitute. And somehow in the scriptures, Mary Magdalene got conflated with another story. This is their excuse. Oh, we made the mistake. There was the sinner woman that washed Jesus' feet in the book of Luke, and that's how they made out that she was a prostitute. We know that's not true, because there's other amazing stories from the Gospel of Philip. So remember, in the King James, the canon of 66 books, that's only the partial records. There was a lot of amazing stories on Bibles by Mary Magdalene, and in the Gospel of Philip, which I have. We learn that that Mary Magdalene was the closest to Jesus, and that she was the Koinos in Greek. Koinos means spiritual partner or marital partner. And so even like when we saw in the Da Vinci Code, we saw that Mary Magdalene was actually close to Jesus, and that one of the disciples was a woman, it wasn't 12 male men. So this is the end of patriarchy. And the reason why I'm talking about all this is because, well, let's have a look at this picture. We've got Mary Magdalene here. Mag means great, like magnificent, magic, Magdalene. And the Mary means of the waters, of the ocean. So this is the divine feminine that's emerging out of the ocean of life. So she's sacred, and every man came through woman. So this is a return to the divine feminine. But what's happening is that we've got the popes that have decreed false information, the big lie. So I'd like to call that the white lie. That's my definition of a white lie, is they said that Mary was a prostitute, but they sort of lied, and now they've apologized. But this is going to bring down what I call colonialism, globalist. So the symbol for globalist Well, here we got Pope Paul. Here we got Pope Francis, who's in his tomb. This is a classical doorway into history now. This is a big moment, and here he is wearing that amazing symbol. But why have I got a picture of Klaus Schwab? So this picture, I cringe every time I look at Klaus Schwab. He was the head of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. And what do we know that just happened? So just the day after Pope Francis dies, on the 21st, the next day we have Klaus Schwab, the sinister head, announcing that he's been stepping down, which is fantastic news. So what's crumbling is this edifice, this lie of the plutocracy. Plutos means wealth, right? Plutocracy is when only the wealthy few govern the world, and everyone else is ignored, like debt slaves. So it's all changing, and that's why I want to tie this in with an EarthGrid, because we need to repair the damage that's been done from other from entities for thousands of years, if not tens of thousands of years. Yeah, so that's where I'm coming from, and the other picture I didn't show you here was that there's a claim that Jesus had 2 children with Mary Magdalene, and the one that we know about was called Sarah, and she's actually the Catholicism have actually decreed that Sarah there is a saint. So now we have Saint Sarah. So it's interesting that the religions are now trying to tell the truth, the cover up, because this is an age where there's so much like pedophilia going on and corruption and wars that it's coming to an end, because what we focus on, whatever we do, it always comes back to us. It's called the law of boomerang. So if there's evil entities in the world that are trying to control and manipulate, well, that energy gets boomeranged back to them, and that's what they don't know. So, and people that try to take energy from you, they're actually saying, oh, I don't have my own energy, so I need to be a vampire or a parasite. I'm going to take someone else's energy. So just recognize these people who try to control and attack you, they actually have no power, because that's why they have to take. So there's a great turn of events. So I'll come back to this story. I'll just come back to this story. I just wanted to show you. So I've spent the whole day just trying to repair this grid. So when I got this EarthGrid here, we're looking for Australia. So you can see the map of Australia here. So it's made up of 30 diamonds. And there's something special about each one of these diamonds. I printed it out so you can see. So I've enlarged the diamond, and it looks a bit like that. So the ratio of the smaller side to the longer side, it's a rectangle, is 1:1.618. All you need to know in sacred geometry is the golden ratio. So the small axis to the long axis. But look at the center of that diamond. So I'll put this down. So at the center of the diamond, we have a place called Uluru. So it's right in the center. So Uluru is not really the heart of Australia, this red rock. It's actually another place a bit south called Flinders Ranges. Flinders Ranges. It's there's a place called Grid Point 44. Each one of these vertexes here, there's 62 vertexes. So there's Grid Point 62, which is Antarctica down the bottom, where Hitler had his base in Antarctica. The Germans had a base down in Antarctica. But going back to Australia here, at that middle of the diamond, we have Wilpena Pound. And there's a highway, a bitumen road that goes all the way to Wilpena Pound, and you can sleep in the cave and play music and have an epiphany. It's there, it's a portal. So what I believe is going on in the world is that when we see skirmishes, like say the clash between say Israel and Gaza right now, the skirmish down on the land is just a distraction, because what they're trying to own is the electromagnetic grid. There's an ether around the planet. It's called the plasmaverse. In India, they call it Indira's net. It's like the mycelium with mushrooms, where it's an internet in the soil, where we have an internet all around the planets and all the stars. So that if we own these grid points up in space, these are called stargates. So the real war is the stargate over Jerusalem right now. It's not the skirmish down the bottom. So that's why we need to study sacred geometry, because the definition of sacred geometry is we're learning to remember who we are and where we came from. We don't just have these simple petty lives. That we're actually star beings, and and the reason why I'm showing you this Earth grid is that right now we need to heal all the trauma that's been going on for generations and for millennia. Yeah, so how did that start? So why did I start fixing it? Yeah, so I had two diagrams here. So this is how it arrived. So it arrived like that. And you can see that there's no little tabs. There should be little tabs on the edges where all these fold up. But because there was no tabs, I had to, so on the inside of that, if you turned it over, this is called the net. So now I've got the net of the rhombic triacontahedron. That means 30 diamonds. Hedron means face. Rhombic means diamond. That's a diamond. Tria means 3. Conta means 10. So 3 lots of 10 is 3 tens of 30. So there's 30 diamonds. So I had to glue all these extra little pieces to it. I'll see if I can find it. No, I can't find it. Doesn't matter. And anyway, so what I've been doing is I've cut out 30 individual diamonds and glued them on top to reinforce it. And then you can see here I've numbered them and glued them, and there's a lot of sticky tape there, but it's not sticky tape. That's like a masking tape, but that would come off. So then I would get, say, like some tape. This is a sort of a heavy tape. So like that. So, and just by cutting it, and just by cutting that to size. So I've got some tape, and then I would stick it, say, in this area in here. So I'd sort of stick it in there. But because it can peel off, I would need to then get some glue. So I'd get my glue like this. I got a glue, put heaps on my brush. So with heaps of glue, I literally had to paint over all of this to make it like an eggshell. So now this is strong. So what I learned from all of this was you do not share your toys with children because they disrespect them. No, do let your children play with toys. But what I'm saying is you can't get this vortex map anymore, so because it's a rare piece, and it's so symbolic. It's got because essentially shape stores memory, just like crystals do, and just like water has a consciousness, and the water stores the memory in its 108-degree hinge. The relationship between hydrogen and oxygen is that the two oxygen connected, the two hydrogen connected to the oxygen down here are like a hinge. And when water is restructured, it opens up to 108 degrees. But in the science book, you're told it's 104 degrees, which is correct. But when water becomes superstructure, and it opens up to 108 degrees. And what contains 108 degrees? The dodecahedron. So that's the dodecahedron that contains the 108 degrees. That angle there, the external angle. So this is the fifth element called the ether, the spirit, and it was a very sacred geometry. And it's the key. We needed this and another shape to make this triaconta. So when I say triaconta, it does mean rhombic triaconta. So when I bought this from vortexmap.com, it came with a little stand. So it's meant to sit kind of on your table like that. And I just want to read out some of the information on it. So it was showing here that every diamond has a measurement. So by knowing the golden ratio, the short to the long axis is 1.618. Each side length is 2,600, is it kilometers or miles? Miles. So side A, so the short distance is 1,440. Side B is 2,200 and side C is 26. So those three lengths in the diamond allowed us to measure the Earth, which is what we want to know. And they're sort of saying here that there's an intelligent grid, which I'm going to show you in a minute, all around the planets, that links up sacred sites. And that's why I was talking about water, because all the sacred temples in the world are on are on these nodal points, on the nodes here. And what was under the temple? Water, spring, pure spring water, which carried the history of the earth, the memory of the earth, and these temples guarded it. Yeah, so here it's called the EarthStar. It was done in 1984, somewhere in Oregon. I'm not sure where. Yeah, so that was the stand, and so now I can place my rhombic triaconta on the stand. I'll put that aside. So what I wanted to show you was, and stay with me because I've got another 15 minutes. I want to just show you how I actually bought it. So I found this in the early days on the internet. This is going back more than 20 years. So this is the map that I just showed you, the globe, and it showed you that it could be a net, right? So it says the Earth star is the natural geometry of the Earth, the science behind Earth magic. It's called the Becker and Hagen. They're the two people that put it together. So the Becker-Hagen's Earth star has been featured in numerous books. It shows the natural geometry of the Earth and the geometric relationship of megaliths and sacred places around the world. So it can be assembled, but like I said, they didn't have these little tabs on the stars. So I'm going to show you how they've partitioned the globe, the 3D globe. There's 62 vertices, I believe. So there's 62 nodal points on this rhombic triaconta. So if this is the number one, was grid point is Giza, is number one. And this down here would be, say, maybe the Antarctic, and this could be Uluru, Australia. So I just wanted to read out some of the, so I've got the 62 coming down here, and I'll put my finger near them. So grid point 1 was the Giza. So grid point 9 was Hudson Bay. That's the present location of the North Magnetic Pole. Grid point 13 is a real mystery. It's in China. The biggest pyramid in the world is in China, and it's not talked about. Pilots aren't allowed to fly there. It's a big cover-up. We won't go into that, but so China is on this grid. Yep. Then we've got in southern, grid point 14 is southern Japan. We've got the Dragon's Triangle. It's unfortunately, there's a lot of seismic activity around there, and we're talking about sunken cities. And scuba divers are going down into the waters, revealing huge temples under the waters of Japan, because these are sacred sites. And near Hawaii, there's a place called Hamakulia, and there's, again, lots of earthquake activity going there. Then we've got in grid point 18 is Bimini. That's the site of huge man-made walls underwater, discovered in 1969. So there's a lot of stuff still being discovered there. And this is where Edgar Cayce predicted the evidence of Atlantis would be discovered at grid point 18 Bimini. Then we can get heaps in Africa. In Algeria, we've got megalithic ruins. That's grid 20. At grid 21, we've got megaliths at Aksum. That's the Coptic Christian center in Ethiopia. And the reason why that's important is because Mary Magdalene is Ethiopian. She's a black goddess from Africa. So Jesus' divine partner, the Eros Gamos, was a divine African woman. Whereas when I taught in Chartres Cathedral, I taught a week in 2017 and another week in 2018. I had 100 students, and we taught sacred geometry. And the bishop of the church said, I want to show you down in the abyss, in the call it the dungeon. And have a guess what was hiding there? There was a statue of Mary Magdalene that was black. And the irony is that the statue, the life-size statue of Mary Magdalene up in the church, they painted it white. So there's the white lie. It's just bizarre but this is the breaking down of all disinformation and distortion. And Eidos Gamos, that Jesus' partner, Mary Magdalene, is called the Eidos Gamos. Eidos in the ancient Greek means sacred. And the gamos, well, the original Latin word was eido-onymus, and onymus is like nomos, means the name. So the eidos gamos, which is Mary Magdalene, is the sacred name, and her name means the oceans and the waters, the great waters. So I believe that Mary Magdalene has her energetic signature at grid point, where am I? Grid point 21. So I'll just put my finger on it. So at grid point 21, we can see the the megalith at Aksum, the Coptic Christian. We call it the Coptics, the Christian center in Ethiopia. And then a favorite one is grid point 25 is at Bangkok. We call it the Angkor Wat area. Grid point 26, Sarawak in Borneo near Australia. Again, megalithic structures everywhere. There's indeed advanced civilizations, not just on Earth, but from other planets, other solar systems. We are star beings, and this resurrection of the truth about Mary Magdalene is a return to the Christ consciousness. It's so important, and this is an honoring of all the religions and Mohammedans, is that we're unified through the divine energy of the Christos and the Mary Magdalene in their divine union. And then we've got sites in grid point 35, over here where my finger is. Grid point 35 is Lima, Peru, in the Andes, and the Nazca lines. Behind me in my library, got heaps of books on all the Nazca lines. They fascinated me because this is all part of the grid. Then we've got in Gabon, in West Africa, we have a natural atomic reactor. They say has been in operation for 1.7 million years. And then we've got grid point 44. Now, this was the one that I was talking about. Here it says it's the Maralinga atomic test site. So back to Australia, because I'm over here. Mullumbimby, Byron Bay is on the east coast. And that ley line, so where I am right now talking, the ley lines, the grid, goes through Byron Bay, but I'm in Mullumbimby, half an hour inland. So it's coming through to the centre and out through the west coast, and this is on both ends. We have the dolphins where people are birthing babies. Ocean births are happening at Byron Bay and down here in the west coast. But right in the heart centre where it's intersected on the vertical here, we have, it says here that it's the Maralinga atomic test site, but I was told by Aboriginal elders that it's actually Wilpena Pound in the Flinders Range. So I'll do some research on that. And this is all part of the research. We're just following the breadcrumbs, joining the dots. We just want to know the truth, because the truth of our being is that we are all connected. And that's what this Earth Grid means. So it's interesting that if it is Maralinga test site, I mean, that's shocking. If grid point 44 is the Maralinga atomic test site, which they say has megalithic ruins, why did they blast it? You know, I mean, it's almost like we're like cavemen. We're Paleolithic. We're sub-intelligent. That we're polluting our oceans. We're bombing sacred sites. I mean, that's why we're not ready to receive. They call it the Disclosure Project. The conclusion after 20 years of research saying, oh, look, the aliens can come and give us free energy and med beds, but be careful of all of that because we're not emotionally ready. That's the conclusion. We're so primitive, we're still polluting our planet, that we would use that energy to create military weapons. And have a guess what? That's what we're doing. But that's all changing. And then we'll go on to grid point 47 down here. We're nearly there. Grid point 47 is the Easter Island and its megaliths. Again, my first books, I've got all the books over here on the Easter Islands. And then we've got, in the last one here, grid point 62, because there's 62 vertices on the rhombic triaconta, is the German underground Antarctic base. That opens up another whole portal of information, because we believe that Hitler escaped to the Antarctic, where they had bases and Vimana spacecraft there. And then this article goes on and on with all the longitudes and latitudes. If you want to know the precise positions of everything I've just said, it goes on for actually quite sort of like several pages. It's just, but anyway, that's what we do in our spare time, a bit of research. So I just wanted to show you some more grids. So a lot of when I look for grids, if I want to fold up a certain shape, it's coming from this kind of book here. That's called Sacred Geometry Design Source Book. I met this amazing teacher, Bruce Rawls, when I was in America, 2003, 2004. Thanks to Roger Green, through International Feng Shui, he put me on the world map by me, giving me an opportunity to teach about magic squares. This whole library is all based on the world's collection of magic square harmonics and frequencies, because the future of medicine in the world is based on sound, vibration, and frequency, as you know. So this book goes into how can we kind of like make these shapes, you know. So every page is just giving you an activity, how to create that geometry. And of course we have to give a dedication to Yeshua. That's in the Hebrew, Yeshua, but the name in Greek was Issa. And in Arabic, in my language, Lebanese, it's called the Messiah, the Messiah. So whatever name we give to Jesus, we see that Jesus is the creator of the world. He's using the compass, which is the tool, the Masonic tool that can create all the polygons, all the various shapes. And he's holding the world, which is great. So I believe this is a beautiful time. We're living at an extraordinary time in our lifetime to witness the crumbling down of these old dysfunctional structures that have been manipulative and controlling. And we're moving towards a new path where we're no longer being sprayed like insects, where the soil's being contaminated, the chemtrails, our food, our water, the air, you know. I mean, this has to change, because the manipulation that's been going on, I believe, hundreds of thousands of years, has come into a close. And in our lifetime, I believe we're going to witness that. A lot of people also ask me, they want more information about this geometry, about the Earth grid. And just because I want to close soon, what I'd like to add is, if you wanted to create this geometry, it's called a Catalan. So we've got the 5 platonic solids. So here's 2 of the 5 platonic solids. These are platonic solids because at any vertex, if I look at the dodecahedron, at that vertex we've got pent. So its signature is 555, whereas the icosahedron, at any triangle, they're all the same. At that point, I've got triangle. I've got 5 triangles, so it's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. But then there's an Archimedean solid. So sometimes we have a shape. Where it's got mixed polygons. So there's 13 shapes that are called Archimedeans, where you've got triangle and square, right? So at any vertex point, we've got 3, 4, 3, 4, square, triangle. And that's those 24 lines that you see, edges, are the centers, based on the centers of the 12 around the one. That's another whole amazing discussion, but that's called Archimedean. But what we can do with an Archimedean, we can go inside the shape and we create another 13 Catalan. So what we do here is I'm going to fuse these 2 shapes. Imagine as I bring them in, they become one. Imagine that, they become one. So just like see how on the icosahedron we've got there's a pentagonal pyramid at the top there. There's 5 triangles. So that pentagonal pyramid here, emerges out of the faces of the dodeca. So out of each face, imagine out of that pentagon, we've got extrapolated a pentagonal pyramid. So the fusion of icosa dodeca makes another shape. It's an Archimedean. So this Archimedean, because it's based on triangle, pent. So if I was to hold that, you can see it goes 3, 5, 3, 5. So we're almost there. So there's one more step to go from here, the icosa dodecahedron, to become the Catalan, to go from Archimedean to Catalan. So how do we do it? I'll just have a drink first. Yeah, I'm almost there. I love my pomegranate juice. It's actually a symbol for Mary Magdalene was the pomegranate as the sacred, it's like the sacred blood, the sacred juice of the earth. So, to go from this 3535, what we need to do is we say, introduce magic spider that has a golden thread or web. And magic spider says, I'm going to go from the I'm going to join all the face centers, the face center of the triangle, of the pentagon, all of them. So magic spider goes in and internally connects all the geometry. So have a look at this. You can see, if you look at this section here, from here you've got a pentagon, and two triangles. Imagine magic spiders inside. It's going to join that point to that point to that point to that point. Can you see that there's a diamond? There's actually a beautiful diamond. Well, that's what's happening all the way around, and now we've got 32 diamonds in the golden ratio. But the only thing about this shape, the reason why it's called a Catalan is because it doesn't actually fit perfectly inside the sphere. Like where I'm holding it, there is a sphere around these points, right? Where I'm holding it. But on these indents here, the sphere that comes around just misses that. So for some strange reason, it doesn't fit. Every vertex, every 62 vertex doesn't touch the sphere. So technically, it's not a true Archimedean solid, and that's why we call it the Catalan. Okay, so we're almost there. Just got a few more. Just want to conclude with a few more images. There's a thing called the dihedral angle. So if we were to look at the angle between two edges, between, say, this edge and that edge, when we want to look at the two angles between this plane and that plane, it's 144 degrees, and 144 has got to do with the speed of light harmonic. So when you say go on Wikipedia and you study everything about the rhombic triconta, you read all these facts and you go, oh, the dihedral angle is 144 degrees. And that's what I do, is I cross-research and link everything together. So then I thought, that's really special. I'm going to make some jewelry out of that. So I often wear a little jewelry that I made when I was teaching in Thailand and in Singapore. I set up a school with my friend Joycelyn Ming Tang from Singapore, and she works with the government. So we got government approved. The school was called the Joy of Numbers, and we got students to build this shape. I worked a lot with autistic children. So a lot of the work that I do is getting children to build these geometries, like imagine like this, but with big sticks so that you can actually stand in them. So children love that. That's the best way to teach sacred geometry. And also with children, this is a magnetic toy. Kids love magnets. So if you could open this magnet, say I open it up, and you can see that it clicks. And so you smash it all up, and then the kids put it all together again. But you can see that this is the 3D component where that point touches the center. So this is all golden ratio, and it just clicks in naturally. So kids love magnetic toys. That's a really great way to learn. And then also when we build the geometries, I think this was taken at Burning Man. If you can build big structures like that, people can learn, literally become embedded in the geometry by actually being inside of that. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss. I'm just getting all my notes. Yeah, and I might just end on one note. It's interesting that, because we want to close now, when we want to tie all this together, like so what? What's the big point about the passing of Pope Francis and the resurrection of Mary Magdalene teachings? Is that we know that there's a breaking down of old structures. That's great. And I've been following a special friend online called davidsereda.co, and his wife Crystal passed, and I'm coming back to the number 591 because in 591 AD was when Pope Gregory the Great decreed that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. So that number appeared in David Sarita's life. So it's Crystal, who passed, made a telepathic contact with her husband, and it was 591 days after she passed, and from that communication, she said to him, "You'll understand and you'll work it out." So when he looked at 591, he opened up a portal and realized that there was another astrological system, that we've got our planets in this dimension, but there's another one, another sun. So visualize that we've got two suns and two dimensions, and it's all written in the the Greek stories of Dante that he goes into. So I'm just saying there's so much more. The best that we can do is share knowledge and stay in our heart, and give, a tribute to the resurrection of the clearing of Mary Magdalene's name. And the best thing that we can do is just follow your passion, eat good food, meditate every day, find stillness. So by you working on yourself, as we work on ourselves individually, that we collectively, we all become like little sparks. So if everyone around the world is doing their little activities, they're being in their happy space, we start to radiate a certain energy or a light. We open up our like diamond light body, and we all start connecting on a bigger grid. So I want to end on a very positive note, that there's changes coming. It's for the good. There may be a lot of dissolution happening around us and changes, but we need the changes to always come back to where we came from, back to the center of our heart. Thank you for listening. Bye.